Today is Tuesday, the 22nd of February, 2022. So, happy Tuesday. r/AskReddit by Redmond Detis. What's the most messed up thing you did in a sleepover? In the mid-late 90s, my brother got really into the Anarchist's cookbook and learned how to tap into neighbors' landlines from a box on the pole, using a touch-tone phone and some connectors from Radio Shack. We'd have friends sleep over, we are close in age, and we'd sneak out, and he'd hook a phone up so we could call phone sex lines from outside a neighbor's house in the bushes. I still wonder if they disputed the charges or if the wife just thought the husband was calling 1-900-BIG-TITS at 2 a.m. Visiting a friend's house for the first time and I couldn't find the bathroom. I was about 10, during a sleepover. In the middle of the night, dark, confused, I pissed in the closet. Got a bloody nose. It was dark and I didn't know the house, so I stuck near the walls and went down the hallway and found the bathroom. Got the bleeding to stop, cleaned up, went back to sleep. In the morning, the mom came in frantic making sure everyone was alive after she saw smeared, bloody handprints all the way down the hallway. More embarrassing than messed up. Accidentally clogged the toilet at friend X's house. There was no plunger and the toilet was filling rapidly. I panicked and ran to my friend who promptly called for his dad. His dad takes one look and yells from the bathroom, "Jesus X, how big of a dump did you take?" It took years before I went back to his house. Raided my friend's dad's Playboy mags. Then my friend showed me a naughty video and I couldn't figure out why the girl was drinking the guy's pee. Full disclosure, I was like 9 or 10 and this was early 80s. Were you just misinterpreting a BJ, or was it like a fetish tape? I bathed my friend. Two of us stayed at a friend's house in our early teens. We raided their parents' liquor cabinet and proceeded to not understand how alcohol works. We drank every kind of liquor under the sun. Very quickly, over the course of a few hours, we chased shots with popsicles and ate animal crackers to get the taste of gin out of our mouths. One of the three of us stood atop a small staircase into the living room. Maybe 4 steps, a few feet in distance. He swayed, grabbed onto the railing, turned pale and then projectile vomited so violently that it all landed and splashed at the bottom of the staircase, leaving the steps clear, minus a few drops. He then immediately fell down the stairs and began to laugh in a pool of his own vomit. We picked him up, dragged him to the bathroom, stripped off all his clothes and shoved him in the shower. He had thick curly hair that was filled with bright red popsicle colored animal cracker paste. I told him to put out his hands as he kept yelling to not tell everyone he had a small dong. Once he finally complied, I poured shampoo in his hands and told him to clean his hair. He slapped it all into his face, causing him to gag and his eyes to burn. At this point I had to get him cleaned up. So I did. We had no spare clothes for him barring our friend's brother's clothes. He was quite obese. We had to get a belt and tightly tie what I can only describe as parachute shorts around his waist. We went to sleep afterwards and convinced ourselves no one in the house heard us. If this story is believed to be untrue, the reason I remember it so well is because that friend shouting about his dong had a bigger dong than me, and you never forget finding out your dong is small. We had a co-ed church group sleepover at a Vermont farm. I was 13 and recently got a fake testicle. I had my other testicle removed due to an accident. I was getting people to feel my balls and take bets on which one was the real one. I don't remember what we were looking for, but me and another friend went through our buddy's parents' bedroom drawers and found a VHS tape. We were curious and idiotic, so we popped the tape in to see what was on it. Our buddy walked in while we were watching his parents have sex. His scream was the most shocking, horrifying thing I have heard to this day. I found a set of photos of my parents doing the deed. My real question was, who took the photos? Walked home while everyone was asleep. Didn't tell my friend. Didn't tell their parents. Didn't tell my parents. Just crawled out a window at my friend's house and crawled in a window at my own. Went to bed. Not a single person looked for me in the morning. Given that no one looked for you, I can probably see why you left. Played with matches. 4 years afterward thought I'd burned my aunt and uncle's house down. I was staying with them. My cousin and I were lighting matches in the kitchen and throwing them in the sink to put them out. The head of one flew off and landed in the shelving unit by the sink, still smoking, but when we looked for it, we couldn't find it. It was the 80s, so all those kids "don't play with matches" ads were everywhere. Hours later we were awakened by my aunt telling us to get out of the house because it was on fire. Watched their house burn to the ground and was terrified to tell them what we'd been doing earlier. I just knew we'd done it. Carried that guilt for years. When I was around 15ish, which was many years later, I finally told my aunt. She started laughing, and after realizing I'd been thinking this the whole time, hugged me and explained it had been wiring in the back bedroom. I was an adult before I finally understood, after learning about how fire marshals investigate fires, that it wasn't just an assumption they'd made and could let go of that guilt. So I guess, technically, the most screwed up thing I did on a sleepover was traumatize myself for years. That's a hell of a coincidence. My friend and I were 11 or 12. His sister was about 14. She announced that she'd never seen a junk in person before and wanted to. Basically, it was a show me yours and I'll show you mine thing. Except it was directed at me and my friend. Which makes sense, I guess. If she'd never seen one before, why not try to look at two at once? Ground rules were set. You can look for as long as you want or as close as you want, but no touching. I'd never seen a vag in person before, so I was up for it. My friend was apparently curious enough to scope out his own goddamn sister. So, we all showed each other our junk. After it was over, we never did that again. Never spoke of it again or anything else. We found craft singles in the fridge and put one over the nose and mouth of a friend of ours who fell asleep on the couch before everyone else. It immediately softened and molded into a cheesy seal over his face, and he stopped breathing. We all freaked out for a solid 10 seconds, very quietly, until we heard him make a chewing sound. Mother sucker smelled cheese and took immediate action despite being unable to breathe. And just straight up ate a mouth-sized hole into the single unconsciously. We then proceeded to plaster the entire package onto his face one at a time and watch him hoover up the cheese slices in order to not die. We were all like 9 or 10-year-old girls and everyone else had fallen asleep except for me, so I decided I would play a prank on them. I got up and shook a good amount of black pepper into my hand and went to several of the girls and held it under their noses. What I was thinking would happen was they would wake up sneezing and be like, "Hey, that was silly." But instead they ended up waking up crying because they inhaled pepper, and turns out black pepper being inhaled into a sensitive orifice can really freaking sting. The girls cried so hard that my parents woke up and I had to explain the whole innocent idea behind my scheme. I felt so bad. I jumped out the window to a mattress below for some money. I slept there with the blanket because they did not let me back in. It was winter and I thought I'd freeze to death. When I was in middle school I had a sleepover at my friend's place, and we spent the night taking questionable selfies on her bed and sending them to guys in our class. Later that night we took turns throwing up in her bathroom after eating copious amounts of pizza because we both had raging eating disorders. It wasn't exactly the healthiest friendship I've ever had. My gal pals and I wanted to make sure our hymens were broken before we lost our virginities, so we shoved Sharpies up our vags aggressively together. Oof. This is actually a pretty rough memory for me. I was at a friend's birthday party in middle school one year. The parents told us to dinner at Hooters and afterwards we were killing some time running around playing tag in the parking lot. At one point, I'm tagged it, and proceed to chase after the birthday boy. In the process, I accidentally got a little excited and pushed him in my attempt to tag him. I broke the kid's arm. On his birthday. He missed out on the first 3 hours of the sleepover due to being stuck at the ER. His dad had us all go upstairs and play Halo to kill time. Needless to say, I was not very popular at that sleepover. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. Have a nice evening.